I'm going to tell you something today that will sound absolutely mad. There is a secret price that comes with awakening, and it has to do with love. Not the kind of love they write songs about, but something far more dangerous. Every truly awakened person carries a burden that makes them nearly untouchable. And what I'm about to reveal changes everything you think you know about enlightenment. What we mean when we say someone is in love, what's really happening there? When two people fall in love, they're playing a very ancient and rather elaborate game. It's a game of mutual deception, though we'd never call it that at a wedding. Each person presents to the other a carefully edited version of themselves. Not the whole catastrophe, mind you, but the highlight reel, the charming bits, the mysterious bits. And the other person, equally desperate for connection, agrees to believe in this edited version. They invest in it. They build their dreams around it. This is what we call romance, and it's absolutely necessary for the game to work. But when you awaken, and I mean truly awaken, not just have a pleasant experience in meditation, something rather catastrophic happens. Something happens to your ability to play this game. You see through your own editing process. You watch yourself trying to be charming, and you see it for what it is. A performance, a mask, a clever little dance you've been doing since you were old enough to realize that certain behaviors get approval and others get rejection. And worse still, you see through everyone else's performance too. The awakened person stands before another human being completely naked, psychologically speaking. No pretense, no carefully crafted image, no future promises of becoming someone better, someone more complete. Just this strange cosmic accident of consciousness that somehow learned to call itself by a name. And that level of transparency is absolutely terrifying to people who are still identified with their personas. You know what happens when you stop pretending? When you stop playing the game of I am this kind of person and I'm looking for that kind of person? People don't know what to do with you. They can't get a grip on you. It's like trying to nail Jell-O to the wall. You become unpin-downable. And our entire romantic structure is based on pinning people down into roles, into promises, into predictable patterns. The unawakened person is looking for someone to complete them. They're looking for their other half, as the saying goes. But the awakened soul isn't a half looking for another half. They're already whole. And two whole people meeting, now that's an entirely different proposition than two halves trying to make a whole. Most people aren't ready for that. They don't want wholeness meeting wholeness. They want need meeting need. That desperate clinging that feels like love, but is really just two people afraid of their own emptiness, trying to fill the void with another person's presence. Imagine you meet someone at a party. Charming person, quite attractive. They ask you what you do, where you're going in life, what your dreams are, all the usual questions we use to build the story of who we think we are. Now, if you're awake, you realize you can't answer these questions honestly without sounding like you've lost your mind. Because the honest answer is, I'm nobody going nowhere, and the whole thing is a cosmic joke. I'm the universe pretending to be a person, asking another part of the universe pretending to be a person what they pretend to do. Try that at a cocktail party sometime and watch what happens. The person will smile politely and find someone else to talk to, someone who's still playing the game, someone who has ambitions and plans and a 5-year strategy, someone they can understand, categorize, and potentially fit into their life story. You see, people want to date a character in a novel, not the space between the words. They want someone with a story they can follow, a trajectory they can predict, a future they can imagine. The awakened person has no story. They're just here, now, being whatever is happening. The more you see through the illusion of the separate self, the less you can participate in the usual dance of relationship, because that dance requires two people who believe they're separate selves. It requires someone who can say, I need you, and mean it in that desperate, hungry way that makes for great poetry and terrible relationships. The kind of need that keeps the whole machinery of romance grinding along. That beautiful, tragic need that spawns 1,000 love songs and 1,000,000 broken hearts. It's the fuel that the entire romantic industrial complex runs on. But when you've awakened, you can't say, I need you in that way anymore. Not because you're cold or detached, but because you've seen that the I who would need and the you who would fulfill that need are both characters in a play. You've walked backstage and seen the ropes and pulleys. You can't unsee that. And you can't pretend you haven't seen it just to make someone feel comfortable. So you stand there, utterly available, completely open, but somehow impossible to possess. And possession, my friends, is what most people mistake for love. Think about the language we use. My girlfriend, my boyfriend, my wife, my husband. We speak of human beings if they were property. And when someone leaves us, we feel robbed, betrayed, as if something that belonged to us has been stolen. The awakened person cannot be owned because they don't even own themselves. How can you possess someone who has realized they don't exist as a separate, solid entity? It's like trying to capture smoke. You can see it, you can move through it, but the moment you try to grab it, there's nothing there. And this is where it gets truly interesting. The awakened person loves, oh yes, they love more deeply than you can imagine. But it's a love without hooks, a love without agenda, a love that doesn't ask anything in return because there's no separate entity there to receive anything. It's like the sun shining. The sun doesn't decide to shine on you because you've been good or withhold its light because you've been bad. It just shines. That's what it does. And the awakened person loves in this same unconditional, indiscriminate way. But you see, most people don't want that kind of love. They want the other kind, the kind with conditions, the kind that says, I love you because you make me feel complete. I love you because you validate my existence. I love you because when I'm with you, I can forget the gnawing anxiety that I might not really exist at all. That's the love that comes with strings attached, with contracts written in invisible ink, with expectations that neither party can ever quite articulate but both understand perfectly. It's a business arrangement disguised as romance. The awakened soul cannot enter into this arrangement, not because they're superior or enlightened in some holier-than-thou sense, but because they've seen through the very mechanism that makes the arrangement possible. They can't fake the neediness. They can't manufacture the anxiety that makes possession feel like security. They can't pretend that another person has the power to make them whole because they've discovered they were never broken to begin with. And so they wander through this world of lovers like a sober person at a party where everyone else is drunk. Everyone around them is caught up in the drama, the intensity, the passionate highs and crushing lows of romantic love. And they're just watching with a kind of bemused affection, like a parent watching children play a very serious game of make-believe. They can appreciate the beauty of it. They can even participate to some degree, but they can't lose themselves in it. And losing yourself is precisely what falling in love is supposed to be about. We even say it that way, don't we? I lost myself in her eyes. I was beside myself with passion. The language reveals the truth. Romantic love is about losing yourself, about abandoning the burden of being a separate individual, if only for a moment, in the arms of another. It's about merger, fusion, the temporary dissolution of boundaries, and it feels ecstatic precisely because, for a brief moment, you get a taste of what the awakened person knows all the time. That separation is an illusion, that we're all one thing looking at itself through a billion different faces. But then the moment passes and the boundaries snap back into place and you're separate again. And so you chase that feeling. You fall in love again and again, trying to recapture that moment of dissolution. You mistake the person for the experience. You think it's about them, but it's not. It's about the temporary breaking down of the walls you've built around yourself. The awakened person doesn't need another person to experience this, because the walls are already down permanently. They live in that state of unity that everyone else is desperately seeking through relationship. Can you see the problem? They're offering what everyone wants, but in a form that no one recognizes. It's like someone offering free water to people dying of thirst, but the water isn't in a bottle or a glass. It's just water, pure and simple. And people walk right past it because it doesn't look like what they think they're looking for. They want the container. They want the form. They want someone who needs them back, who will play the game with conviction, who will suffer dramatically when they threaten to leave, who will cling and grasp and promise forever. The awakened person can't do any of that. Not convincingly, anyway. And so they become untouchable. Not because they're trying to be, not because they think they're too good for ordinary love, but because they've evolved beyond the very mechanism that makes ordinary love possible. They're like a butterfly trying to explain flight to caterpillars. The caterpillars aren't interested. They're too busy crawling around, looking for another caterpillar to crawl beside. They can't even conceive of what the butterfly is offering. And the butterfly can't go back to crawling. It's not a choice. The transformation is irreversible. You can't unknow what you know. You can't unsee what you've seen. Some of you might be thinking, well, what about two awakened people? Couldn't they have a relationship? But here's the beautiful thing. When two awakened people meet, they don't have a relationship in the conventional sense. They don't have that drama of separation and union, pushing and pulling, needing and fulfilling. They simply enjoy each other's company, moment by moment, with no story about past or future. They dance together without stepping on each other's toes because neither of them is trying to lead. It's not a relationship. It's a communion. But communion is rare. Most of the awakened souls you'll meet are wandering through a world of people still caught in the dream, still believing in their own separation, still hungry for that special someone to make them complete. And the awakened person looks at all this with tremendous compassion because they remember what it was like. They remember the hunger, the desperate searching, the belief that happiness was just one person away. They remember it like you might remember a dream you had as a child. Vivid, but no longer real, no longer compelling. So they remain alone, in a sense. Not lonely, mind you. Loneliness is what you feel when you're a separate self longing for connection. The awakened person is never lonely because they're never really alone. They're always connected to everything. They're the ocean feeling itself as a wave. But they are solitary in the sense that very few people can meet them where they are. Most relationships require you to pretend to be smaller than you are, to squeeze yourself back into the costume of being a separate individual with needs and fears and ambition. The awakened person can't do that anymore. The costume doesn't fit. And so they live in this world, loving everyone and belonging to no one, available to all but possessed by none. And this is the secret price of awakening that nobody warns you about. You gain everything, the whole universe, in fact, and you lose the ability to play the game that makes most people feel alive. You become cosmically rich and romantically poor. You see the joke, but nobody's laughing with you. You are free, but freedom looks like loneliness to people who are still in chains. And yet, there's something utterly perfect about it, because the awakened person doesn't feel they're missing out. They're not sitting around wishing they could fall in love the way other people do. They're not lonely for companionship in that hungry, desperate way. They're complete. And completion is what everyone's looking for through relationship, but can never find there, because you can't find completeness in another person. You can only find it in yourself, by yourself, for yourself, or rather, by realizing there is no separate self to be complete or incomplete. This is what I mean when I say the awakened soul can't find love. They can't find it because they are it. they've become the very thing everyone else is searching for. And you can't find what you already are. You can't seek what you've already become. The search is over, but the party's still going on, and everyone at the party is still searching. So the awakened person sits in the corner, radiating love to everyone who passes by, but rarely do people stop. They're too busy looking for love to notice it standing right there. And that, my friends, is the cosmic joke, the cosmic tragedy, the cosmic perfection of it all. The awakened soul becomes love itself, and in doing so, becomes impossible to love in the way that most people understand love. They've transcended the game entirely. And once you've transcended the game, you can't go back and play it with a straight face. You're done, complete, whole, and profoundly, beautifully, perfectly alone in the crowd. Not because no one loves them, but because everyone does and no one knows it.